The first time I saw the ship, it was a mirage-like vision hovering in the distance, a ghostly form appearing and disappearing through the dense morning fog. It was 1995. I was on a fishing trawler anchored off the coast of South Africa. The hazy silhouette of the ship was eerily familiar, and the tales I'd heard as a kid about the Flying Dutchman swirled through my mind. You see, I had always felt an indescribable connection to the sea. My father had been a fisherman, as had his father before him, but their stories about sea monsters and haunted ships had always been told in jest, more like bedtime fairy tales rather than actual warnings. Until that day, the allure of the ship was irresistible. I thought about my life, which was increasingly feeling directionless. My marriage had recently fallen apart, and my connection with my teenage daughter was more strained than ever. The sea was my only solace. However, as days turned to weeks, the ship's ghostly apparition appeared more frequently. Each sighting was followed by unexplainable, chilling phenomena. Compasses spun erratically, radios buzzed with static, sometimes whispering incomprehensible voices. It was as if the ship was beckoning me. One evening, while the rest of the crew slept, I sat on deck, brooding over my life's failures and misdirections. Suddenly, a soft glow emerged from the horizon. The ship appeared in full, bathed in an eerie green luminescence, its time-worn sails billowing even though there was no wind. Entranced, I jumped into a lifeboat and started rowing towards the phantom vessel. As I drew closer, the chilling sounds of melancholic chants echoed from its deck, a mournful tune of sailors long lost to time. Once aboard, I was greeted by a crew of spectral figures. Their eyes were hollow voids, and their skin the pale gray of the moonlit sea. The captain, a tall man with a weathered face and a tattered uniform, approached me. "You've been watching us," he murmured, his voice a mixture of menace and sadness. I nodded. "The Flying Dutchman?" He smiled, a grim, humorless expression. "You know our legend, then?" I recounted the tales I'd heard as a child. The captain sighed. "We are cursed to sail these waters for eternity, never finding port. But we can, under certain conditions, take on new crew." Fear gripped me. "What conditions?" "A soul searching for direction, for purpose," he said, his eyes piercing into mine. "A soul like yours." The ship's haunted corridors told tales of its ancient origins, and every shadow whispered secrets. There was no escape, no matter how desperately I sought one. Days turned into nights, nights into days. Time lost meaning. As months passed, my memories of the real world faded. I started seeing familiar faces amongst the crew. Faces from my past, my father, my grandfather, and many ancestors before them. They too had been lured by the ship's enchantment, trapped in its never-ending voyage. One day, as I gazed upon the boundless sea, the captain approached. "You're not like the others," he said. "You hold on to hope, even here." I thought of my daughter, the last thread tethering me to reality. "I have to get back to her," I whispered. He nodded. "Every 100 years on the anniversary of our curse, I'm allowed to choose one soul to release. But in return, another must willingly take their place." The day of reckoning came. The sea roiled and dark clouds gathered. At midnight, a lifeboat appeared alongside the Flying Dutchman. A solitary figure stood in it, head bowed. My heart froze. It was my daughter. "I've come for you," she cried. "I've spent my life searching, driven by stories of my lost father and the haunted ship. I'll take your place." Tears streamed down my face. "No, this is not the legacy I wanted for you." The captain intervened. "The exchange has been offered." Desperation gripped me. I couldn't let her suffer my fate. "Take me instead, let her go," I pleaded. A cold laughter echoed. "You're already mine." As I held my daughter, an idea struck. What if there was someone, another lost soul, who could willingly take my place? Someone who has already been seeking the ship, longing for its haunting embrace? The captain considered this. "Find such a soul before dawn, and both of you can go." And so, with hope as my guiding star, I began singing the mournful tune I had heard upon my arrival. My voice carried across the waters, an enchanting lure for the lost. Hours passed, and just as hope waned, a response echoed back. Another soul, seduced by the song, approached. A man, lost in grief and despair, clambered aboard, his eyes reflecting the same emptiness I had felt. The captain nodded, satisfied. The exchange is complete. With that, my daughter and I were on the lifeboat, rowing back towards the real world as the Flying Dutchman faded into the mist. We reached the shore by dawn, the curse broken for us but continuing for another. The line between legend and reality blurred, but the greatest mystery remains. Who was that man, the stranger who took my place? Every night I hear that mournful tune, a haunting lullaby of the sea, reminding me of the sacrifice and the ever-present allure of the Flying Dutchman.